Hello, hello, and welcome to this episode of the Nerds of the North podcast, episode number 46, which I totally remembered without asking. Today, we're going to be discussing Ms. Marvel, Kenobi, Stranger Things, and The Boys. If we can get through all of that in our new relatively short time frame, thanks Zoom. As always, I'm host number one, Matt, and joining me as always is host number two.
My name is Nick, and I'm happy to be here.
He's happy to be here. All right, so yeah, I guess we'll just kick it right off. We kind of lightly agreed to an order of what we were going to talk about, so we'll start at the top of that list, as is tradition. Ms. Marvel, what have you been thinking, Nick?
Okay, let's just begin. I feel like I'm in a pretty good mood today. Sometimes when I'm on here, I'm kind of like lethargic and like,
gotta talk to this asshole.
Am I even on video right now?
Am I even on?
But no, I definitely am fully aware today. Miss Marvel, what is my main opinion on this show? I think it's good. I think it's actually a pretty good show. I thought that season or episode 2, I'm like, wow, this Marvel show actually feels like an actual television program that someone might actually like if they weren't into the MCU, which is that a compliment? I think it is. I like it. I don't know if it's particularly for me. Like, I don't really feel like I'm like super excited for each episode where I'm like dying to figure out what happens next. But it isn't my demographic, or not my demographic, but it's in the range of shows I would like potentially. Like, I really like Euphoria. Not that this show would ever go to the same place as Euphoria goes, but it kind of focuses on the same demographic.
Right.
So I like it. Think it's well made. Don't think it's for me, maybe, but I'm still going to continue to watch it. So
yeah, I mean, I know that I'm firmly in the not demographic probably for the show. I mean, outside of being a fan of Marvel, but I have been absolutely enchanted by this show from like episode 1. I quite frankly, like, I could have just watched an entire show about Kamala Khan. Like,
you're getting it. You're getting it.
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly, yeah, it's like, I get it. Like, I was almost a little disappointed when the superhero element started creeping in.
Oh, gotcha. So beyond like the superhero element where you could just watch it without the superhero stuff.
Yeah, like, I was just loving her, like, her view on the world, and like her trying, like, this coming of age story of like a girl with a really active imagination. It's like, I remember, when I was a little girl, like, having an active imagination like
yeah,
that.
when we were a young Muslim family, little Muslim girl trying to make our way through like our tween years in New Jersey. I remember that time as well, very well, man.
Yeah, I know. It's just wild how parallels are just everywhere. No, yeah, like, she just, like, there's so much about her that's so different, and that's something that I can't relate to, but then so much of her as a character is something I can relate to. And just like having such a fascination with like the superhero culture, and like her view counts are like honestly better than ours mostly, and so it's like,
well, obviously our view counts are, I think, you and me.
Yep, mostly. And then the times when I go and revisit to like see, has it gone up? Oh no, that was probably just me again.
Yeah.
No, yeah, like, I've loved the show. I love the mystery that's unfolding of like, who the different characters are, like what happened to her great grandmother during partition, which like that's a whole bit of history that I'm not super familiar with.
I'm actually, it's obvious because the lady who wrote the comic is also very involved with the creation of this show.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel
that's cool.
The impact of that. And there's also like a lot of little like points and stuff in the show where it's obvious, where it's stuff like I didn't know about, that only that particular culture would probably know about it. So it's just kind of an interesting like little lens into this world that we get to kind of be a part of.
Yeah, I've heard a decent amount of commentary from just, the internet at large, the circles I'm in, which is largely Reddit, but like talking about how there's so much there that people are relating to, like who are actively part of that culture, who have participated in that culture. They're like, this is very similar to like what their upbringing was like, or like parts of it, you know. And like that's that whole phrase of like, you know, representation matters. And this is a cool you know, lens into that world. That's not something that I would have ever actively gotten in my life at this point. But yeah, no.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, yeah. I've really enjoyed all the characters. The animations of her just like imagining things are just delightful. Love that. And then I like kind of the I like the unique take on like how her powers come out, because I know I don't know a ton about Ms. Marvel, honestly, but from my understanding of things, she's much more of like a Mr. Fantastic, in that she was like stretchy in the comics.
Well, she can embiggen.
Yeah.
She has embiggening powers.
Yeah. And but the like the way the light projects seems to kind of be, you know, like often hand shaped or something along those lines. So, but it kind of seems like a cool amalgamation of like, you know, her powers from the comics, which I was just saying, like the beginning, versus like Captain Marvel having her be like, you know, the power cosmic. So
yeah,
seems like a cool melding of the two, and I'm really enjoying it. But
the show that it most reminds me of is a show. I've only watched the first season of it because I just thought it was okay, but I'm sure some people really love it. There's a show on Netflix called Never Have I Ever, which is about a young, I believe she has Indian heritage, which again, really interesting that the show went into like the partition and how Pakistan, Bangladesh, India kind of split up in that way. And they mentioned colonization in the show, which is interesting. But again, it's Never Have I Ever is about this young Indian American girl who it's coming of age story. And she has like, I believe her dad dies, I think, in that show. Anyway, it's kind of similar, and I appreciate it. There's also some similarities to that new Pixar movie that I'm drawing a blank on its name. Red. I want to say it's Red.
Going Red.
Going Red. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Going Red. Or yeah. Turning Red.
Turning Red. Yeah, similar to that. So those commies at Pixar, and they're turning our.
They're turning the pandas gay.
I have a red shirt on today, so.
But yeah, no, I think it's been a fantastic show, and yeah, I think you're right. It's like this has definitely been the most like just TV show like so far. Like WandaVision was just such like a weird amalgamation mystery when it first dropped. I think Ms. Marvel definitely sits more in in how like the story's being told is along the same vein as like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but better is what I would say. Or like the narrative structure of it is a little more similar.
So what? Say that again.
The narrative structure, I think, is
Ms. Marvel.
Yeah,
it's similar to
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, just in terms, it's a lot more linear. It's kind of like hitting a lot of like fairly familiar beats in terms of like she's got her powers, and now like some antagonists are being brought in.
Yeah, Marvel, I feel like is doing different genres now, pretty consistently. So She-Hulk seems more of like a kind of almost like a what would you say it is? Like kind of like a comedy.
If I were to like make it just a base judgment off of what I've seen, it feels like it's more in line with like a CW show, and that like it does have its comedy elements, but it definitely has a lot of kind of like the corny relationship moments happening. They're like really leaning into her being like a strong, empowered woman, which I think is fine because she's literally a female version of the Hulk.
We should probably move on here. Closing thoughts. So my closing thoughts on this show is I like it. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to wonder if I'm getting to the point where I'm getting a little burnt out of Marvel, which I think that's a discussion that we can have maybe not for today, but I think that is a valid question. Because like I do kind of feel a little like
inundated.
Like I almost want a break, like I don't need all the content all the time. Like I just kind of like I almost kind of like the movies spaced out like they are, because you get really excited for like Doctor Strange, and then Thor's like in July, so I'm excited for Thor. But Miss Marvel is like, I'm not getting that same sort of like serotonin rush anymore from Marvel content like I used to. Which anyway, we shouldn't spend too much time on that if we really want to get through all these shows.
Oh yeah, no, I'd love to talk more about that, but we can do that after these shows are over, when we're like, oh man, so burnt out on this. Anyway, what do you want to talk about? But all right, so next on our list then is
Kenobi season, episode 5, up to episode 5.
Now let's see. Episode 5 ends with with Reva
basically finds out about Luke, basically.
Yeah, finds out something about Luke. Something she knows that there's a child on Tatooine.
What I mostly want to talk about with this show is, if you like it, do you think it's quality? Because I don't think it is. I don't think it's that great. But
I mean, you know what? No, I would disagree. I think I will say this. If I were to, I think it's fair to compare Ms. Marvel and Kenobi, because they are coming out roughly around the same time. Not on like a daily basis, but on a weekly basis. I think Ms. Marvel's up here in my tier list of these shows, because there's so much coming out right now that, like, as we were talking about before the podcast, it's kind of hard to keep up with all of this. Like Ms. Marvel's clear up here. I think Kenobi's definitely a little more middling, and I think it has a bit of the same problem as Rogue One, in that we ultimately know like where all of this is going to end. Like the stakes of what happens to Leia and Luke are sealed. They're going to be fine. Obi-Wan is going to be fine. Alderaan is super not going to be fine.
Like, well, at least it does. I mean, it's as fine as Obi-Wan is.
Yeah. And so like
episode 4,
we are like watching a show that's filling in the details. And I think keeping that in mind, I think helps with the enjoyment of the show a little bit.
See,
because there's not going to be anything like
I don't care. Like, it doesn't bug me where it's going. Like, I don't care that we know Obi-Wan is going to make it out. I don't care that we know Leia is going to make it. I don't care that it's filling in the details. Mm-hmm. I just think it's kind of shoddily made, personally. Like, I don't think it's that good. Like, the best part about it for me is Ian McGregor's performance. I think he does a great job.
Yes.
And beyond that, like, I actually think it's not very good at all. It's very, very mediocre, which for a show that carries such history and like you want to love it so much, it's disappointing, because honestly, I think Mandalorian is really, really great. Yeah. Transcends Star Wars. Like there's people that have watched The Mandalorian who enjoy it that haven't seen any other Star Wars.
Right.
I think Obi-Wan, man, I just wonder if like the budget went to like paying the actors, because honestly, it just looks so cheap to me. It looks poorly filmed. Like everything with Leia to me just seems really weird and strange, that I think, and it's just not edited that great. Like, just something about it, I watch it and I'm like, wow, man, that was just okay. And I'm just a little disappointed. I'm not like upset.
Sure.
I know people get pissed off at Star Wars. I'm not pissed. I'm just kind of like, oh, I wish that could have been a little better. But
I mean, I think you have valid points, honestly. Like, I don't think the show is hitting as hard as I wanted it to, like, for just on a personal basis. And it does seem like a lot of people do have kind of the same opinion on it in that way. Something that I wish they had done, I mean, like, as potentially interesting as some of the minute details of what happened to Luke and Leia from the time that they were dropped off as infants to when we meet them officially in A New Hope. It could be. I want to know more about just Obi-Wan. And I'm not necessarily super invested in the stories of Luke and Leia because their story gets told later. I don't need a grand biopic. This is why I think like Anakin as the character in the prequels kind of laid. Actually, I'm seeing Patton Oswalt this evening, and he does a whole bit about this, about how like everyone loves Darth Vader. Darth Vader's so cool, right? And then George Lucas is like, well, we're going to tell a story about when he was a kid. Who cares about that? He's not Darth Vader when he's little Anakin Skywalker. Like he's just a child. And like the parts of Darth Vader that they love is because he's Darth Vader and all the things he's done as Vader, not before he was that. And that's kind of the same with Luke and Leia. Whereas like Obi-Wan is primed and ready to like be going on different adventures, with Tatooine being where he comes back to protect Luke. And instead, he's babysitting the kid a lot. And how they're fitting in the children, because now we're going to get like a whole bunch of episodes of him interacting with Luke in probably some small way.
Oh, you would think next episode's the last one.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so like, what are they going to do? Like, because Luke is fully aware of Ben Kenobi, like on Tatooine. He says as much in New Hope. So they had to have had some interaction. But like, what are they going to do? You know, all the cool things that I thought they could have done with this show aren't really going to be fully realized.
Well, they're hinting at a season 2, which I'm okay with, but I'm not like excited for it anymore. I'll probably just be like, oh, you know, I love Ian McGregor. I think he's great. But I think for me, like just as far as, and I'm some guys went to film school. Like there isn't like a grandeur. Like I'm not feeling emotionally his arc. And I think it's kind of because he's mostly interacting with like a 5-year-old girl who's not a great actress. Like it just isn't connecting with me. It just seems kind of like there's a lot of plot contrivances too that that just kind of makes you go like, why did that happen? That doesn't make sense. You know, like the motivate, like it just doesn't make sense.
So what would be an example of a plot contrivance? I'm just like out of morbid curiosity.
Right. Well, I'm thinking like at the end of episode 3. So there was this big fire that was separating Obi-Wan and Vader, right?
Sure.
He puts it out. He's able to put it out the first time. He doesn't put it out the second time and he's not even separated that far, right? From Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. And then this next episode 5, you literally see Vader pull a ship out of the sky using only the Force. So to me, it seemed like he could have easily grabbed Obi-Wan from that distance with the Force, pulled him over the fire. Again, I don't know exactly. And there's other stuff, weird stuff too. It's like they leave Reva alive at the end of episode 5. It just seems something weird. Like, why would they do that? Like Vader to me would kill her. Or it's other weird stuff too. It's like it doesn't like Reva. Literally, the episode before, you see Reva about to torture Leia, a child, and then this episode where she's like caring about like how when she was a child, like Vader attacked her, so she wanted revenge for that. But literally, the episode before, she was about to torture Leia. It's like just stuff that doesn't really make sense to me. Like, but.
No, I mean, I could definitely agree with you on some of those points. Like, there are definitely
another one that was like when like literally Obi-Wan and Reva are like talking to each other in front of a bunch of stormtroopers about an insurrection basically against Vader.
Yeah.
No one else heard, and then she releases Obi-Wan to go back inside.
Right.
Does she explain that to the stormtroopers why she did that? That she just released him to go back in?
I mean,
it just seemed like what? Like, does no one here report to Vader? But like, does no one hear what's going on here? It just seems.
I mean, to be fair on that point, there were stormtroopers on the inside of the door that were like waiting to receive Obi-Wan. So it's not like
he walked back and he got on the ship and escaped. because she let him go.
Well, what she did is there were 2 stormtroopers that escorted him in, and then there were other troopers on the inside, and then he fought them and got away to go exit onto the ship.
I need to rewatch it. I don't know. I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
I thought she just released him. To be fair,
on that point, she did like let him inside, which I do think is like sus as hell, at least as from a stormtrooper perspective. Like, why is she doing that? We have him out here, like outgunned 30-1. Why would we put him back in there where it's like him versus Gary? Like,
yeah.
And but to be fair, he wasn't just like released inside. He did have to get away. But I will say,
it's like what's it, like Leia, like, oh, let's get her a ladder to go fix. We're like our entire escape plan relies on this 5-year-old to go inside this little thing.
See, like my alarm bells were going off on that as well, because it was like, hold the phone. You mean to tell me that like this entire group of resistance fighters, there isn't anyone small enough, alien or human or whatever, that could possibly fit in this? Like, you guys have to do maintenance, right? So like, what do you do when something breaks the old-fashioned way? Like,
yeah.
Now, I was one of my biggest issues.
I know she's supposed to be 10 years old in the show. I don't care. She looks 5. Okay.
Well, and she's literally 9. So like, I don't know why they wouldn't just cast a fucking 10-year-old. Like, she's supposed to be 10. 9 will do. Like, but Tala, like, every time Tala had to like escape from stormtrooper custody,
like in the last episode,
yes,
like episode 4,
where she like throws her hand in front of a stormtrooper's helmet. And like, I was making a joke to my wife during this episode. It's like, man, I can't see a fucking thing out of this. Like,
it's weird. Literally, I don't know how many times in the show, I just want to comment on this too, that Vader says, "Where is he?" in regards to Obi-Wan. He said it at least twice last episode. I'm pretty sure he says it like when he shows up, he says it a lot. Where is he? Because I always like think of like Batman. During that like that like interrogation scene of the Joker, like, where are they? Where are
they? But yeah, no, like there definitely are parts of the show that I find very corny, and the plot isn't amazing. I've been enjoying the show for what it is, like, but my excitement for good Star Wars has just disappeared. It's been dusted, because I wasn't a huge fan of the sequel trilogy outside of like Force Awakens, which is basically cheating because it's like A New Hope 2.0, and The Mandalorian was fantastic. Boba Fett was middling, and so far I would say Obi-Wan has largely been middling.
Actually, really, I mean, I didn't really like Boba Fett. I thought it was pretty good. People just like to bitch.
See, I liked Boba Fett, but the thing is like that last episode was just like the most lackluster finale.
It was truly
like, I just was, and if your finale sucks, like if Game of Thrones has like taught me anything, is if your finale sucks, like the taste in your mouth is not going to be good for that show.
For me, that's the same thing that happened with Hawkeye. Like, I actually enjoyed Hawkeye for pretty much the entire time, but the last episode was just so like mediocre that I've almost completely forgot about the show and what happened in it. I just thought it was just kind of boring.
Yeah, you could probably put a gun to my head right now, and I don't know if I could tell you what happened in the last episode.
Well, it was just like mediocre. Like, it was very boring. I remember I stayed up to watch it at midnight. I fell asleep. I couldn't even make it through it. And I tried to watch it again the next morning. Again, totally lost interest like halfway through. And I tried to watch it a third time. Again, I just could not get through with it maintaining my attention, which is not a sign of a good finale. That is not.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should just finish with our last feelings on this? Because I feel like we've been spending a lot of time on Kenobi and move on to Stranger
Things. Because it's Star Wars related. We always talk about Star Wars forever, ever.
But I'll say I thought episode 5 of Kenobi was the best, but still pretty disappointed. I don't know. I know this might be controversial on a hot take, but episode 2 of Kenobi might actually have been my favorite, just because they're on this interesting planet that has a bunch of interesting aliens, which is one of my favorite parts about Star Wars.
It's one of the most prequel-esque episodes in terms of its atmosphere.
I kind of miss the CGI aliens, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I wish they would have like some CGI aliens and some like handmade aliens. I kind of miss that prequel energy of like Jar Jar Binks and Watto and stuff.
I think having a healthy mixture of the two would be good, because there's just certain limitations to like practical effects. You can't have a ton of physical interaction with a physical prop because it's a prop. It's gonna fucking break.
Yeah.
You don't need an alien's hand popping off or a string coming loose and some loose alien limb.
I just kind of miss it. Like I miss, my mom keeps on asking me in regards to Obi-Wan. It's the weirdest question. She's like, when does Jar Jar Binks show up? And I'm like, I don't know, Mom. I hope he does, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
I mean, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, that's like the finale. Like, he's a Darth Jar Jar. Come for revenge.
Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that would be quite the finale. Could you imagine?
Who is running from trouble now?
I did notice they had Jar Jar in like their recap at the beginning, like the first episode.
Yeah,
he was like I'm like, does that mean Jar Jar is going to show up? Can you
imagine if he like fucking showed up? What if all of our like spin foil hats of like, oh, like Cal Kestis or Darth Maul or whomever's going to show up in the finale of this show, fucking Jar Jar Binks? Can you imagine?
Ultimate cameo. Can you? The internet would like be in like hysterics.
Would be in stitches.
I wish, right? Dude.
Like,
I actually like Jar Jar. That's like, I have a friend at church, and we're both really into like those Ewok movies that came out in the 80s. And we were just hoping like Kathleen Kennedy on like Star Wars Day was going to announce like the epic conclusion to the trilogy of the Ewok film. I wish. I totally wish. I would be so excited for that. Anyway, I give the show a C at this point. So,
I give it a 6 out of 10 and a 7 out of 10 with rice. But at any rate, I guess we're moving on to
Stranger
Things. Well, this show has been like, I've been of two minds on this season so far. I've really loved Stranger Things this season. I'm really annoyed at how Netflix is releasing these episodes. On that personal note, I think that they're just like stringing out people who only subscribe for Stranger Things when it comes around, or whatever show they're looking for.
I mean, every other service does it.
I mean, like on an episode by episode basis, but this is Netflix like deliberately going against how it generally releases shows.
Yeah,
they normally are like, here you go, here's the whole season, binge away. Like, the number of aged like milk things I've seen regarding Netflix and their policies on like how they release their shows or password sharing and all that shit has just been like flung in their face as of late. I just really think that like they're fighting back against what they have been, and it's going to bite them in the ass.
10 minutes.
But so yeah, what have you thought of the season though?
I've really liked it a lot, actually. I thought it's, I mean, the end of, I think either episode 3 or 4 with Max running away from Vecna with Kate Bush's running up that hill. And
I mean, that's been everyone. That song has like skyrocketed.
I've been listening to it when I first released. I listened to that song over and over again, and I talked about it with quite a few people. And I told them about it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've been listening to that all the time too." So it's not just me, thankfully.
Yeah, no, people have really gone in on that song, which I think is cool. Like, it's funny how like a certain song in a certain scene will just like blow up the popularity.
And I really like. I didn't really know if I really liked Max as a character that much before, but I've really actually dug her this season quite a bit. Like, but in general, I really like the show. It's like a weird mixture. It always has been, but like between like Acura, sort of like that special child who was in a lab. I didn't know if I liked that it took away that 11 actually was the one that killed all those kids. I actually kind of liked that she had this really dark part of her past that she would have to reckon with, and she did, but it turned out it was, I guess, spoiler, that it was actually Vecna, or I can't remember that character or the actor or the character's name.
Technically he's one.
One. Yeah, one. And I called that. I was like, I bet that guy's one, just the way he's acting. I did not realize he was actually Vecna and also the kid from that house as well. But
I mean, I knew it was Vecna only because it's the same actor. Like the guy.
Oh, it is?
Knew who the actor who's under all that prosthetic. It's the same guy. And so I was like, it would seem kind of weird for them to have him be this character in addition to Vecna.
Yeah.
So that kind of was a bit of a spoiler for myself, but I didn't call him being one out of the children. My wife did. But I was like, I feel like he's Vecna, and but it does explain the powers, the kind of the mysticism around how the Upside Down was created, or the portal into the Upside Down was created. It still kind of seems a little wibbly wobbly, but
I actually thought he was going to be the Mind Flayer somehow. That he was actually going to be the Mind Flayer, but it seems like the Mind Flayer is above Vecna.
Right.
So I like the season. I thought it was really. It's interesting. The episodes are so long. At first, I was kind of like, oh man, this kind of sucks. Like it's basically a movie per episode. I'm like, that's a lot. That's a big time commitment. But if anything, I ended up liking that, and I'm gonna say that I'm actually beginning to be a little bit critical of Disney and only releasing 6 episodes per season. I'm kind of getting annoyed with that, actually. I think
it makes the season feel rushed.
It makes it feel rushed. It doesn't feel like a full course. It also doesn't feel like I guess I don't feel like I get as attached to the characters. It feels like you're not really getting a TV show. It's like a weird mixture between a TV show and a movie, which I guess is a limited series, but I just don't know if it works for me. But at least now, I would be comfortable if they were experimenting more with actual season length shows in the future, which I guess She-Hulk is 12 episodes, and so is Andor, I think, something like that. So.
See, and I think that's a proper number of episodes. My wife and I have never watched the full run of Community ever. I've seen Community dabbled here and there. We just started from episode 1 and have been going forward from there. Season 1 of that show is 25 episodes.
Yeah, that's old broadcast
old format, right? And it's kind of crazy to see that evolution in shows.
Yeah.
Wife, are you leaving? But yeah, on the one hand, I'm like, man, I can't believe we're still in season 1, but I also like that I feel like we're getting a fully fleshed out story, however silly it may be, because it's Community.
It's weird. I was thinking about this the other day. So, well, not even the other day, today, but literally we've only had 20 or so episodes of The Boys altogether, I think.
Yeah. Which for
an old broadcast show, that would be a full first season. That's a full first season of Lost right there.
Right. Yes. But I feel like a ton of story has been told in that time. And I think The Boys has done a really good job of.
Yeah, that's perfect transition.
Yeah, perfect transition. Yeah, Stranger Things, 10 out of 10. Fucking love that show. But yeah, The Boys has done a great job of pacing. I just never feel like an episode is wasted. I feel like there's always a good narrative beat that gets hit, or character growth that happens, or lack of character growth, character egress, I guess. I've really enjoyed season 3 so far.
Yeah, I actually think it's better than season 2. So far, I've been enjoying season 3 more. And that you could say the same thing with Stranger Things. I think I've enjoyed season 4 a lot more than season 3, at least so far. But yeah, season 3 is pretty. I like it. Man, it is interesting to see basically the boys become what they hate.
Right. Yeah. Well, because Huey and Butcher honestly are right in that they're getting fucking nowhere by playing by the rules. they end up being cut off at the pass every opportunity that comes up. It's like, what are you supposed to do if you're trying to play by the rules? If you're trying to be a Boy Scout without superpowers isn't gonna fucking beat Superman, like, for Christ's sake, you know, especially Superman, who understands, you know, the logistics of running a mogul media empire.
Since we're running out of time, can we just briefly discuss the Thanos episode, or the Thanos scene? The scene. You know, the scene where a small man runs up someone else's orifice and
exposes yeah, goddamn. I mean, like, I knew that show, or like I'd heard that, like, how because that's how the show starts, right? Like, that's episode 1, isn't it? Like, I'd heard that the first scene, or like the first, like, you know, bit of the show is fucking bonkers. And I was like, all right, I mean, like, how much more bonkers could it be than like Robin exploding, you know, in like season 1? Like,
well, I think, like, honestly, it shows me how freaky Ant-Man's power is if you actually faced it in general. Like, because you'd be like terrified of someone running up like some hole in your body and like expanding again. Like, that's terrifying because you can't see them. Like,
and you wouldn't even need to like be somewhere, like, you wouldn't have to just like be in their ear, or like you could just like get up their nose. If you expanded from there, it's like half their face blows the fuck up.
And they did say that was a comment on, you know, Paul Rudd's whole thing about why didn't Ant-Man just go up, you know, Thanos' butt and expand, and that's why it's called the Thanos.
But what I will say that, I mean, boy, what a way to work in full frontal into an episode. A literal zoomed in close up of just the head of a dick.
Yeah, like, that was a lot. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like,
because I was sitting, as we're watching, I'm like, I swear to God, if I get like a close up look of a puckered asshole right now, I'm gonna be real annoyed.
I knew he was gonna stand inside. Like, I just had this feeling that was gonna happen.
As soon as I mean, my first thought was, because I can't imagine that would feel nice. That was one of my initial reactions. Was like, I feel like that would not feel good, but I don't know. Having never had a small man crawl inside my penis before, I guess I can't say for sure. But yeah, no, like, that was such a fantastic scene. I just love Butcher walking in and like throwing him into a bag of fucking cocaine and just like,
yeah. All right, we're down to a minute, so I guess we should wrap this video.
We've speed ran through all of our topics today. We appreciate you all for joining us today for this episode of the Nerds from the North podcast. We will be back next week talking about more nerdy shit the way we normally do. So thank you all for joining us. We will talk to you guys next time.
Yeah, goodbye everyone. It's always a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.